everybody, and welcome back to the Dev Morning Show at Night. My name is Cassidy Williams, and I am accompanied by my wonderful co-host, as always, Zach Plata. Hey, Zach.
Hey, Cass. How are we feeling about the Rihanna show?
Oh,
good thoughts?
Yeah,
bad thoughts?
Great question. I had so many thoughts. I thought it was excellent. I was one of the probably millions of people who was like, is she pregnant? Or is she not conforming to society's standards to have her body come back right away, which I appreciate and respect and will defend. Turns out she's pregnant, so that's cool. And the fact that she could do all of those dance moves while pregnant is mind-blowing to me.
Amazing.
Incredible. And the song choices, the nostalgia. Excellent.
We are here for it, the comeback.
One of our guests, or our guest today, is someone who probably didn't watch the Super Bowl because he is not based here, but who knows? Munnawar Hashim, welcome to the show. He is a developer advocate at LaunchDarkly.
Thanks for having me. Lovely to be here. I'm based in London, so I did not catch the Super Bowl, but I saw stuff was trending.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was trending in a fun way. I love the memes that always come out of big events. I feel like that's honestly the best part of when you have like the Twitters and the Reddits and everything going after one particular big event. So anyway, what are you working on right now, Munnawar?
So for me, like at the moment, my job's kind of split into like 3 phases, the way I see it. It's like discovery phase, which is like, what project am I working on next? The second is like planning the project. And then the third is like delivering. So right now, there's a couple of integrations that LaunchDarkly has released that I'm trying to make like video content to be like, this is what it looks like when it works. And use it because it makes your life easier.
And now it's time to hear from our lovely sponsors, LaunchDarkly. The Dev Morning Show at Night is a sponsored podcast. I mean, someone has to pay the bills around here. We're sponsored by LaunchDarkly, and LaunchDarkly is the first scalable feature management platform. That means dev teams can innovate and get better software to customers faster. How? By gradually releasing new software features and shipping code whenever they want, fast-tracking their journeys to the cloud, and building stronger relationships with business teams. Thanks for the money, LaunchDarkly.
Wow, thanks, LaunchDarkly, for the money. Anyway, so what does your day-to-day look like?
Honestly, it's this. So I'm quite new to dev advocacy. And so prior to this, every job I've ever had, like whether it being a teacher or my first job in tech, which was a technical support engineer, I would wake up as a technical support engineer and know, boom, this is exactly what's going to happen. I open up my tabs, look at all the tickets, see which customers I respond to. All of our customers are great, obviously, and like politely respond to all the things. And that's great. But as a dev advocate, I wake up and I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do after I finish brushing my teeth. But it's going to be something quite sick. So usually it's kind of like that discovery phase of like getting in, either finishing off a video, a blog post, or a slide deck. Or reaching out to like teams within my company being like, hey, Squad Water Bear, you guys make really cool integrations. Is there any that are coming out next week that I can make stuff about? And they're like, go away, Munnawar, not yet. Give us 2 weeks. So.
That's awesome. Well, and it is a very different type of approach to a role where sometimes I do kind of like having tickets where it's just like, I know exactly what I'm going to do today because it's just written down and it's done. And then when it's more open-ended, you're like, I'm going to work today. We'll see how it goes.
It's also like...
There's a blessing and a curse.
Yeah, it's also like, I feel like every now and then some people talk about the metrics that are involved in their job. Like salespeople are like, oh, I got to hit X $1,000 by the end of lunch, or, you know, I got to deliver this amount of things. And for like dev advocacy, although we do have metrics, it's like, just create 70% extra good vibes and 28% better memes. But like not that, obviously. So it's hard to quantify.
But at the same time, a little bit of that.
Yeah, and it definitely helps if you've got like an organization that really understands the role of developer advocacy or developer relations, whatever it might be, and just yeah, it's so much easier to have that job when the people above you are like, oh yeah, I get what you do, I support all the things you're doing, just keep being awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
That's so important.
So, in your day to day, what kind of tools do you use?
For me, I think like we use like Asana for ticketing. I use Camtasia a lot for editing videos. I'm not like the biggest fan of Camtasia because I've used like other video editing softwares in the past, but since it's like the team's license, I'm slowly starting to become a Camtasia Fantasia, I guess.
Hey.
Hey.
And obviously like Zoom. Zoom is like so
Everywhere.
ubiquitous.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I have a love-hate relationship with Camtasia because when it works, it's perfect. And then when it doesn't, it's a real pain in the butt.
Yeah, agreed.
But what got you into the industry in the first place?
So I was a teacher for like 7 years, 7.5 years. Um, oh, it is beautiful. It's a wonderful job. But when COVID happened, all the best things about the job kind of went away, and all the things that like aren't great about the job either stayed or got worse. And I'm glad that you lot are sitting down, and I hope people at home are sitting down because I'm going to let you in on an industry secret. Teachers aren't very well paid.
What?
I know. Keep it to yourselves. This information could break things. And around the time of that, like shifts in how we were working, I met someone, and she's an incredible person, just absolute genius. And I would wake up at like 7 a.m., mark, a lesson plan, deal with parents' emails, ready for my first lesson at 8:45. And she'd like roll out of bed at like 9, go for a jog, come back with a croissant, and just be like, yep, I'm starting my day. And I'm like, okay. And she suggested to me, actually, and I remember the way she did it was like, Munnawar, you seem like a smart guy. Seem being like the operative word here. Have you ever thought about learning to code? And from there, I just taught myself to code over lockdown. Yeah.
That is
That's
awesome.
impressive.
Yeah, and I feel like, first of all, I feel like tech people do that all the time. It's like a very subtle evangelism, like, have you considered this? But the thing is, it's such a good career in that the barrier to entry is so low, particularly now, that if it's something that you want to do, you can kind of learn on your own and get into it. And then if you end up not liking it, you can just stop, and it's a time commitment more than anything.
It's a piece of knowledge that I feel is so, like, prior to it, like, I've met software engineers, like one or two, and like don't really know what they do. Like, yeah, they just work with computers, I guess. And then since then, everyone I meet, like, you get absolved into the bubble, which I do and don't like. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird, but it's such a powerful piece of knowledge. That's a big way for like class social mobility. It's like just knowing that it's there.
Yeah, you can't be what you can't see. I love that phrase and believe it. Yeah, and I think it's something that is very, very true, where though I don't think everybody in the world should be software engineers, I do think more people need to be aware of the opportunities in the tech industry because of, yeah, that upward economic mobility that it can provide.
And it's, yeah, like you say, it's not just code, right? Like there's sales, and like sales in that sense is so much different from like sales in non-tech sense, depending on where you're located. Life changing. My life has changed. I have hair now. It's wild. I can afford shampoo, you know, it's...
So glad that tech gave you hair. Let's make sure to put that in an ad
shampoo.
somewhere.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to move us to rapid fire questions. We're going to ask you questions rapidly. So we all have domain names and project ideas that we're squatting on. What are some of yours?
Related to what we were talking about, it's either teaching for tech, teaching to tech, or teachers to tech. I've got like a YouTube channel that I've just claimed, and at some point I'm gonna, like you say, like try and evangelize and bring people. I think we need so many more teachers in this country. I'm based in London, UK, but like currently,
Everywhere.
yeah, exactly, everywhere. But like what people are getting paid and what they're asked to do, without government assistance, I think we're striking. Our teachers are striking right now. Big shout out to the teachers out there. So yeah, I wanna get more people into positions that they can use their skills that they've learned.
Oh, love that.
That is awesome.
What is the most recent thing you over optimized?
I think trying to save time by, like, when I do my chores, I like doing a chore is really hard, so I just be all like, okay, I'm gonna listen to a podcast, or like this podcast, or like a YouTube video or whatever. And I've realized now that whilst it did initially encourage me to like do the chores and get loads of things done while listening, I now spend a freakishly long amount of time trying to find that perfect podcast, and then I end up so that optimization has now failed, unfortunately.
What is your golden rule for working or coding in general?
Under promise, over deliver. I'm sure people must respond with that all the time, but it's even when I know. Oh, really? Oh, it's such a good one.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, like I will be like, I will deliver one video that's like mind blowing, but really, I never even say mind blowing. That's like such an over delivery, you know?
Yeah. I will deliver. I would deliver one subpar video.
Yes, and then it hits like above average, just above mediocrity, and it's like, Munnawar, you blew our expectations.
I do think that is a good one, because it's not just for like the people around you, but kind of for yourself too. Sometimes if you underpromise something for yourself, you don't disappoint yourself in what you're actually able to execute in some way, and then you can kind of be a bit happier with the things that you make.
Relationships, it's a big one for that as well. I feel like a lot of our current day, like even if you look at the construction of a dating profile app, it's like, I am the bee's knees, and I'm like, are you? Am I? I'm fine.
What is your favorite "it depends" question?
Every now and then someone will answer the question like, are you an introvert? With, it depends on who I'm around. And then I'm like, so that's a yes. Because if you're around your friends, you feel like yes. And if you're around strangers, you're like, no. So the answer is yes, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it does. I feel like it also depends on a phase of life too, where like, I am definitely an introverted person, but there have been times in my life where I've been less so, just because of the phase that I'm in and what is important to me at the time too.
And then there's also that, like, I want to say ambivert category, I think, where it's kind of like you're in between.
You teeter.
And it almost sounds like what you were talking about, Munnawar, like like depending on your situation and like which group of friends you're around, you could have this totally different side to you. But yeah.
Also, like, some people are wildly extroverted at work, for example. Teaching's a really good one, actually. You get into the classroom and there's like people who are like, hey, and then like as soon as the class ends, it's like, bye kids, bye kids, bye kids. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's, I feel like that's a lot of me. Fun fact, I used to teach. I used to teach coding actually before the pandemic and things. And yeah, it was the kind of thing where after workshop, I was like, man, that was awesome. That was great. And then as soon as I got back, I'm like, wow, I'm not going to talk to people for a week and just recharge.
Give me cereal.
Fair.
I shall be in my cave.
Yeah. Perfect. What is the oldest piece of tech you still own?
It's probably like my Sega Mega Drive. Yeah. So I got that really late because we couldn't afford like an N64 or PlayStation at the time. And so like my mum went to Pakistan. She went like every 6 years or so. It's like either when people got married or like someone died, right? And so she came back with like a Sega Mega Drive with like Aladdin. And I was like, this is sick.
That's amazing.
I love that. All right. Have you written a piece of cringy code? And if so, what was the last thing that you wrote that you remember?
I think probably cringe in what way? Like cringe because it's awful, or because it's like the product of it is cringe inducing?
Oh, a little bit of both.
Yeah. However it
I've got a
makes
great
you
one.
feel cringe.
Ooh,
Yes.
Okay.
I've got a really good one. It's definitely both. So, my partner, who is just so incredible, wonderful, wonderful woman. She's just a great software engineer as well. And so like I kind of made a piece of code that was like when I was learning, right? That was like kind of a choose your own adventure, but it was like basically me trying to chirps her. Chirps means like to flirt in like London slang, right? But I realized at some point that as soon as I would like give it to her, she would just be like, yeah, you should probably have used classes for this. Oh, like the recursion and like all of this like Shakespearean like dialogue I would have generated, or like the poetry, the terrible stuff that I like, the puns, essentially dad jokes. She would ignore all that and just be like, recursion would have been nice here, And I was like, so I never gave it to her. It lives on a private repo somewhere, and I cringed thinking it exists.
That's really cute though.
It is, yeah.
But yeah, that sounds pretty spot on for a software engineer receiving something like that. Unfortunately,
She would have said, you know what? Can we do this as a pull request? I'm gonna show you some edits, and I'm like, no, okay, it's fine.
she's like, let's use this as a learning experience.
Yeah.
And she's an amazing teacher for like anyone that's like not me. We tried it like a few times. And I'm like, oh, like I've heard you talk to people at work who you mentor, and you do such a lovely thing in the background there. But with me, it's like, Munnawar, we're gonna have to deny you food privileges for the next 3. And I'm like, okay, I'm sorry. Well, not that. Like,
Not the
it's
food
scary.
privileges.
I feel like that's a very common thing though when partners are trying to teach each other something. It doesn't have to be code, but coming from personal experience, I cannot learn from my husband. I want to. Trust me, I do. But I don't know if it's his teaching or just me not. There's some kind of block there. I know him too well. It's not happening.
I've learned, this is now my like lesson with like with my brothers, with anyone that I care about. I'm like,
Yes.
here's a YouTube video.
Yeah.
Watch
The
that.
more I love you, the more frustrating this will be.
Truly.
Do you have a favorite programming pun?
I think the first conference I went to, which was like a year and a half ago, like after pandemic, the pub at the bottom was like had a huge like, it was just called the Space Bar. Nice, yeah. And at the same time, I was like, I'm in an industry of like dad joke makers. This is cool. Like, I dig it.
It's wonderful to be in such an industry where that's openly not accepted necessarily, but it's just known that that's something you will encounter.
Yeah. Normalized.
Yeah, normalized.
Another reason why teachers should go into tech. They're constantly doing that kind of stuff.
And lastly, what is your most used emoji?
In work, it's like the TY emoji, like on Slack. And that's mainly because my company is full of amazing people. Like, they're so good. And I will just drop into channels and be like, hey, folks, I'm a noob. And they're just like, we know. And I'm like, thank you so much. Like, um, and very rarely the NP no problem emoji when I've like helped someone else.
That's a fun one.
Yeah.
And then what about outside of work on your phone or whatever?
On my Sega Mega Drive, I use the the crying, laughing emoji.
A classic.
Yeah.
Even at things that aren't very funny.
That's the unspoken thing.
Yeah.
All right. It is time for our random segment generator. All right. We are going to pull up a bunch of random segments and see what the big machine tells us to ask. And the first one is Dev opposites. What do you do outside of your day job? What are your hobbies?
So bouldering is something that I've picked up since leaving teaching.
That's
And,
like the
I mean,
most tech thing that you could say.
It's bad. I'm so basic. It's like awful. And it's something I wanted to try before, where like teaching is an oddly middle class occupation with like a borderline working class salary. And so that means that you love going to museums, but you can't afford the free entry. And like now, it's very much like I can go bouldering if I want. And other people are really into it. Sports, I'm huge into sports. And at some point this year, I'm going to do open mic stand-up as like a bucket list thing.
Oh,
Cool.
Yeah,
that's so
That's
neat.
awesome.
If you weren't in this industry, I know you said you were a teacher before, but what would you be doing? Would you still be teaching or something else?
I think, potentially teaching / motivational speaker. Sometimes it's great just to get people who are like, I don't know if I can. And I'm like, I think maybe you can. And then they
Yeah,
do.
you can. That's all motivational speaking really is.
All right. Our next segment we've got is 404s and heartbreak. So, what is something that existed on the internet that unfortunately does not anymore that you really miss?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I just think a lot of the video game websites I used to visit when I was a kid, being all like, oh, what are the different... I want to get Nintendo news, I go here, like N-Europe, European one, or like PlayStation news is here, but now it's just like all on one subreddit where I don't even click the article anymore. So those websites will probably die in time as well, which is really sad, actually.
Yeah. That's a very real one. And I feel like that's something too where YouTube probably replaced a lot of that, and it's
True,
just
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
there's very few central hubs for that kind of information anymore. It's a lot of people trying to be the hub for everything.
And reading a 7-minute article on a video game at this point is so much harder than listening to a 4-minute video. And I don't like that
Yeah.
about myself. Actually,
We've changed. It's
Truly.
it's like an instant gratification thing that like the TikToks and youths have thrust upon us. But yeah, it is something interesting where even with developer advocacy and working and stuff, when you're starting to make content, there's some people who only want to watch videos and some people who only want to read and that kind of
Yes.
stuff. You have to make sure that whatever you're making hits all of those different factors. It's an interesting dynamic we're in right now.
just make a video with scrolling text, like the introduction to Star Wars, to hit both the
Perfect.
video and the readers in one.
Exactly. Okay, and now we have our last segment, which is the Mild Panic Trivia Fun Game. We have 10 seconds to ask anyone a question or compliment them. So I will do Zach, Zach will do Munnawar, Munnawar will do me. Okay, Zach, what is your favorite boba flavor right now?
Oh gosh. I'm gonna be real basic and just go with the regular brown sugar. Because
it's a good classic.
very sweet. It's classic. You can have it hot or cold. All right, Munnawar. What are you listening to right now, music-wise? Artists or song?
Interesting. Like I mentioned earlier, like I find it very hard. Oh, yes. So I used to live in Thailand for I taught a couple of years in Thailand.
Cool.
Hence the tan. And when I was out there, I learnt the language. I don't speak it super well anymore because I've not had much experience. But I've been listening to an old Thai playlist I made, and it really brings me back. Like the power of the music to bring me back to that time is wild.
That's awesome.
Amazing.
And Cassidy, your Twitter handle is Cassidy.
Yeah.
Is there anything beyond the D and the do? Was it like Twitter said, no, we've run out of Cassidys, or was there something behind it?
It came from my mom, actually. She used to say, like, howdy do, Cassidy. And it was just something, it was just something that she said. And I first grabbed that nickname in college, actually, because we were able to pick, like, our email handles in college. And I was just like, I don't know what to do, Cassidy.Williams or something. And she's like, just do Cassidy. And thus, my username was formed for everything from then on.
That's so cute. I love that story. My brother's name is Mohammed, and my mum used to call him Mud. And I think Mud is so cute. Way cuter than any nickname anyone else got in my family. Mud.
Love that.
That's so cute. I love little family nicknames like that. It's fun. Yeah. It's fun to hear them, especially because it definitely comes from endearment and everything, and you usually don't hear them outside of the family like that. All right, everybody, it is that time of the show for Cassidy's Sage Advice. And I'm Cassidy, and I'm here with Sage Advice. And my advice to you is to kind of step out of your comfort zone and try learning something new if it interests you, or if your situation isn't what you want to be around. Because there's so many times where, sure, like we could talk about going into tech and how amazing it is, but let's just say you're not a huge fan of front-end development or back-end development or security or whatever area you might be in or the thing that you're studying. Just start trying other things, because you never know what you might discover. So many people that I know who are career changers, they might switch in or out of tech, or they might just go to a completely different realm in the tech industry, and it fits them so much better because it's something that they like. And by just being willing to try it, you never know what you might find. That being said, thank you so much for being on the show with us today.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much for having me both.
Where can people find you on the internet? Is there anything you want to plug?
Yes, I guess I'll plug my Twitter, which is Munnawar_H. MUNNAWAR_H.
We'll put it in the
house.
show notes and everything.
Oh yeah, great. Yeah, I'm trying to be more active on Twitter ever since I became a developer advocate, because as a teacher you try and erase your social profile because your kids will find you, and as a developer advocate you need to build it up. So it's going against my natural instincts,
inclinations.
Yeah, true.
And once again, because making podcasts is expensive, this show is brought to you by LaunchDarkly. LaunchDarkly toggles peaks of 20 trillion feature flags each day, and that number continues to grow, and you should use them. You can head over to LaunchDarkly.com and learn about how. Thank you for making this show possible, LaunchDarkly. I've been Cassidy Williams. You can find me at Cassidoo, CASSIDOO, on most things, and I'm CTO over at Contenda.
And I'm Zach, and I'm a dev rel at Rive, and you can find me on Twitter at Zach Plata.
Thank you for tuning into the Dev Morning Show at night. Make sure you head over to our YouTube channel where you can like and subscribe. You can also listen to the audio version of this wherever you get your podcasts.